They say it's a two-horse race. Anyone ever bet on horse racing? Don't do it, trust me. It isn't a two-horse race because of the ridiculous system which obviously Conservatives and probably the Labour undermine and all subscribe to. You guys could have your own student revolution. There's 20,000 of you guys in Bath-ish. That's all it takes to vote. You could vote in, I think it's Luke Skywalker was the one I saw walking out, who is now a candidate. You can do it. You can have your own revolution, and like judo, use their own strength against them, which will just show up what a dopey system it is. Okay? So don't do horse racing. That's it.
As one of the two horses that's described, let me keep it to one sentence. I think it is unethical, especially when combined with these skewed bar charts, and I'm certainly not using it in my literature.
Okay, thank you. Question.
Afternoon. Something I think is really important and that so far we've overlooked is that you're representing the constituency of Bath. And I want to know what you feel passionately about in Bath, why you feel you should represent Bath, and what you want to do. Just one thing. What you want to do for Bath, not for your party, not in the grand scheme of things, tuition fees, whatever, just one thing for Bath. What would you do?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
That's Adam.
Adam, that's a top question. On my website, which we've copied together, I've actually put down there I'm the only candidate representing Bath. You see before you people representing power, as they've openly admitted, they're representing their party. They're representing a single focused issue. I represent Bath. I'm a businessman in Bath. I describe myself as the last businessman in Bath, despite pains. I ain't going.
You don't even live here.
I don't live here. And until 3 years ago when you were parachuted in from London, neither did you, I believe. I now own one of the largest IT businesses in our sector in the southwest, headquartered in Bath, and I'm bloody proud of it. We only employ 50, 55 people. It's not a big company. I've seen the destruction of the Lower Bristol Road. Take a trip down there. The only growth industry down there is 8x4 sheets of plywood to nail up the windows of businesses. All right? This council, in their core spatial strategy structure plan, what they say on page 83, paragraph 8, one industry in Bath, pick up thy bed and walk. Brilliant, marvellous. What we've got, and you'll see it on the BBC website, Bath, a constituency dependent on tourism, brilliant, that's cool, and dependent on local or government jobs. Well, one of the few things, just call me David Newton Rifles, has been honest about is they're going to shoot them. They're going to knock down government jobs, and when all those people in Bath start to lose their jobs because the businesses have all gone, that's what I'm passionate about, that and transport in this ruddy city. Okay? So there.
One of the big problems our city faces is that it's actually chronically underfunded by central government. We're getting the 6th lowest or 7th lowest funding of any unitary authority in England. Yeah. And people might say, well, no, Bath is a rich city, it doesn't really matter. But A, it's got quite a lot of students, they're not rich. And secondly, the average earnings are actually not above the national average. And there are lots of people in Bath who are not wealthy at all. And my big worry is, if that trend continues, then, you know, we won't be able to afford the social services we need in our city. We've already got potholes everywhere. Bus prices are way too high. And the reason for all of that is because our council doesn't really have enough resources and doesn't get enough resources from central government to be able to afford all that. So that would be my #1 priority, make sure, lobby in Parliament more effectively than happens at the moment.
Can I answer the question in just 1 second, but just respond to something Fabian said about funding for Bath and North East Somerset Council. Fabian's absolutely right. We do actually get way below the national average in terms of the funding per pupil in schools, for example, and so on. The problem is that the reason we get that is because there is a funding formula prepared by central government. Unfortunately, the formula that's currently being used is the one that was introduced by the previous Conservative government. And Fabian seems to suggest that somehow or other, if there's a Conservative government and he's elected and he'll be closer, therefore, to government to be able to change it, Bath and North East Somerset already has within it a Labour Member of Parliament who's close to government, is a government minister, and he hasn't been able to change it because the truth is the formula itself is what needs to be changed. Otherwise, you just have 650 MPs all lobbying government to try and change the formula for their benefit, and that's not going to work. We need to actually change the way the formula operates, not least to take into account pockets of deprivation which are not accounted for in the current formula but which exist within the city. But in terms of the answer, I'm sorry it was a bit of a long answer to that bit, but in terms of the answer to the question, what would I want to do? It's things I've been working on and we've made improvements in, but we need to go further, and that's basically to improve the overall environment of this city, to improve it for the people who live here, people who work here, and the people who visit it. That means improving it in terms of improving public transport, to make better public transport more affordable in the city. It means having a cleaner city, not just in the city centre, but in the whole of the area. It means having a protection of the green belt of the city, and it means dealing with some of the problems that exist in terms of antisocial behaviour. Those are the four areas that need to be addressed in the city to give us a better environment for us to live in, to work in, and for others to come and visit.
Do you actually live in the constituency there?
That's a very good question. I live in the constituency of Bath as it is today. Hang on, as it actually, the boundaries actually formally change on polling day, as it happens, Fabian. So currently I live in the constituency of Bath, and immediately we get to polling day, I live, I think it's 2 miles outside in Bath Eastern, but hey, that's where I live.
The areas where Don would like to see improvement, one can't really argue with, I have to say. There's another issue, and it's about climate change, it's about local energy production. When the core plan was out for consultation for Bath and North East Somerset, I'm going to have to phrase this in terms of Bath and North East Somerset because that's what the core plan was for. A firm of consultants was brought in to look at how much energy could be generated locally if Bath and North East Somerset was pretty much an island. The results of that said that we could actually produce over 50%. But then, looking at all the usual objections that come in from the consultant's experience, that was scaled way back to about 17%. And that's not good enough. We've got to be more ambitious than that. If there are really the possibility for that much local energy generation, we should be going for it. There are going to be some objections, but we have to try and do it. Bath's a heritage city. It throws up a lot of problems when you're looking at things like energy use reduction, because there are restrictions on putting double glazing in listed buildings or what you can put on roofs. And somewhere along the line, that has to change because we've got to grasp the nettle of, do we want beautiful buildings that no one can live in? Or do we want buildings that people can actually afford to live in? And I think that's one of my things that I would be passionate about. It's places for the people of Bath to live in which they can actually afford to live.